Hello and welcome to the Sisters for Fitness Wellness Show. I'm Stephanie Gaines-Bryant. Our guest today is Mr. Orlando Treadwell. He's a security specialist, and we're talking about holiday safety. And it's not just holiday safety, it's being safe all year round. Welcome, Mr. Treadwell.
Thank you, Ms. Bryant. Thank you. Glad to be here.
So, Orlando, let's begin by talking about holiday safety. We're in the shopping season now. And a lot of people are going out shopping and they're not paying attention. A lot of times we're on our cell phone, we're trying to carry packages or on the cell phone trying to shop, and so many things can put us in danger. So let's begin by talking about what are some of those simple things we can do to stay vigilant this time of year.
Well, I think the most important thing that one can do when they're out is shopping is to be aware of the fact and understand that we live in a world where individuals actually seek out people to victimize, particularly in this time of year. That's a thought that a lot of people don't tend to have on at the top of their mind, but it's one that's very important. Just that alone. So the mindset of the shopper is stay off of the cell phone, take the earplugs out of your ear. Anything that will distract you, you need to avoid so that you can really kind of focus on the environment that you're in. And you know, when you get into back home, then you can kind of sort of relish in the Christmas season and the gifts that you've purchased. But while you're out among others, you need to be sort of cognizant of your surroundings. Look for people that may be looking at you or to do you harm, or things that appear to be out of place or unusual.
So do you suggest, like, for example, if you've got your headphones on, just have one ear in so that you're always seeing what's going on around you, or just take them off completely?
My suggestion is to take them off completely. A distraction is, you know, you really can't measure a distraction in terms of a degree. If you're distracted, you're distracted.
Okay.
And crime, as most people know, or those that have been victimized, happens so quickly until that second or two of distraction is all really that a perpetrator needs.
You don't want to be suspicious of everyone who's walking past you. What should you be looking for as far as being mindful of someone who may be looking to do you harm?
Well, one of the things that you could look for, and you're right, you don't want to be suspicious of everyone. But the simple fact of the matter is that what people typically have as an image of a criminal doesn't always look like that. So that alone could be a surprise in and of itself. And to avoid that, you have to sort of understand that anyone can be that person. But if a person tends to be watching you more than they should be, and you happen to try to make eye contact with that person and they tend to want to look off, that should sort of give you a red flag that something may be happening.
If you're a man and you're walking down the street, you're in the town center or whatever, where should you have your wallet? Is it best to put the wallet in the front pocket, or is it best to put the wallet in the back pocket where it's more difficult to reach?
Well, first of all, you want to wear pants that's typically durable, sort of a denim fabric. So I would say jeans for the most part. And if you can, it's better to put the wallet in the front pocket. I would avoid this season. I would avoid carrying a purse for the females. Quite simply.
How could we do without
a
purse?
You know, I think when you go shopping, what you really need to get the items that you want is some form of currency, whether it be cash or credit card, and both of those are flat enough to fit inside of your pocket, whether you use a wallet or not. Another suggestion would be to not put all of your currency in one pocket. So if you had money and you were taking your credit card, then I would have my credit card in one pocket and I would have my money in another pocket. So if you go to get your money, if somebody happens to, if you're out there sleeping and somebody happens to grab whatever's in your hand, if they grab your wallet, they don't have your credit card and your cash. They would just either have one, or the other. So it's not a complete loss.
And so that's the danger of carrying a pocketbook, is that we usually tend to put everything in that one place.
Right. And so I would highly discourage carrying purses around this season, because ultimately when you go shopping, you're gonna acquire other items that you're gonna have to carry, such as shopping bags with items in them. So now you got your shopping bags with items in them, and you're gonna also have to be responsible for looking out, for your purse. And you may come to a situation where it becomes a toss-up. Like, if you see a group of individuals, or actually young kids, and I'm not putting them on the spot, but the crime trends this season is that those are the run and swipe, where they run up and grab a purse or grab a bag. That group is younger this year. So if you have your purse in one hand and you have bags in the other hand, if you are marked for a run and swipe, you're going to have to probably make a choice whether or not you're going to clutch the purse or whether you're going to clutch the bag. It's a lot simpler if you don't have the purse at all.
Is it best to hold on to your items, or is it best to just let it go? Let the person just have it, just let it go. Don't fight. What's the best, or should you fight for what you paid for?
That's a great question. And as the best way to answer that question is, and I hate to say it this way because I'm repeating what has been said a million times over, and that is that your life is not worth the items that you just purchased. You could get those again. That's a true fact. Your life cannot be replaced. However, I'm not one to just tell everyone that, if you worked hard and you purchased something, you went and got it, if someone tries to take it illegally, that you should just give it to them. I'm not one to, I don't really espouse that. But on the other hand, your life is not worth a pair of shoes or what have you. So that's going to be really left up to the individual. What I do is try to prepare people for whichever scenario they decide.
Because it's a split-second decision you have to make.
Well, it's a split second once they have begun the act of taking the item. But there are many seconds that lead up to that, which, if your situational awareness is sort of where it should be, if you're kind of watching your environment, if you're not on the phone, then you should sort of, we don't live in an environment where people can just magically appear right in front of us and snatch a bag. I mean, they have to come from a distance. So as you're walking, you want to walk away from groups of people. If necessary, you want to change the hand that your items are in and put them against the side that is adjacent to a wall or some fixed object, versus in reach of somebody that can run up and grab it. Now, another thing, a lot of times those snatch and grabs, run and swipes, they're gonna run up from behind you and snatch it out of your hand. So, there are a lot of systems that have already been developed that has been proven to work. Communication being one of those systems, and that saying that you hear from the military, check your six. That should follow through also with your personal defenses. Like, if you have your purse, if you have bags in your hand and you're walking, then occasionally you should look back and check your six to see who's behind you, and if necessary, change the side of the street you're on, change the speed of your walk or your gait, as it's called, and see who else has this same pattern, who's mirroring your pattern. And that's very unusual for another individual to be out in public and mirror your walk up.
So should you also make noise? Should you scream? Should you yell? Is that effective?
If you are attacked, one of the things that you should do is to scream for help. The other thing that you should do is, you know, if you're already in the fight, you become committed to the fight, become committed to the survival, to winning. Like, don't see yourself as the victim at this point. Like, he's assaulting me, which, you know, most people say, my previous career, that's what they say, he assaulted me. Well, like, if you are being assaulted, and if the assault is going to continue, then I see no reason why not engage in the fight and try to survive. But you have to be committed when you do that. It's not, you know, it's not like something that happens on a school playground. You have to be committed to winning in that sort of a scenario.
What about parking in parking lots? Sometimes you may go to the mall and it's a huge parking lot, and should you be aware of exactly where you park? For example, not parking next to a big van, where if someone does attack you, nobody can see it because the van is blocking whatever view witnesses might have.
All right. Well, I'm glad you mentioned that. The attack may come from the van, from within the van, because as you know, the vans that they have now, the van doors open on both sides. So if a person gets out of their vehicle at a shopping mall during this time of year, there's going to be a natural assumption that they have some form of currency, be it cash, credit cards, or whatever. So I would suggest if you can avoid parking next to a van, avoid parking next to a van, unless you're completely sure that the van is empty. Because when you get out your car and turn around, if they were in the van and slid the van door open, they could have cost you, pull you in the van and take whichever. I don't want individuals to become paranoid, but I'm saying these are the things that you have to look out for. Parking lots are, you know, typically notorious for these sorts of crimes. What I would suggest is, just like in law enforcement, military industry, executive protection, is to recon your area. Don't go and just look for that parking space anywhere. Like, drive around, take some time to determine if there are better areas, safer for me to park in than other. And that doesn't mean that it's going to be close to the mall. It may be a longer walk to get to the mall, but it may be more well lit. You may actually see, if you take the time to look up, you may see a camera system there. Sometimes those cameras are monitored by security forces inside, versus somewhere that's dark and close to the mall.
Let's talk a little bit about packages being delivered. This time of year, you get a lot of packages delivered to your home, and a lot of times the delivery people aren't as careful as they may have been 15, 20 years ago. The package is left on your step, which can be open season for people who are trying to steal from you. So what's the best way to deal with that? Should you have your packages delivered to the home, or what's the best way to safeguard your packages?
Best way to deal with that is to have your packages delivered to a secure location, whether that be a friend or relative home that you know is going to be home during the day, or if you choose to rent a post office box, whether it be a UPS post office box or United States Postal Service post office box. Once that is delivered there for you, then they store that, and they'll put a card or a notification of some sort in your box telling you have a pickup at the counter. Most of those services are very or relatively inexpensive, and they don't have long-term leases on them, so you can lease one or rent one for a month or 6 months or whatever the need is. And then when your package is delivered, you have to go there and show your identification to get it. So it won't be left at the home at all. That avoids that whole situation.
Because Lord knows, you know, you want to safeguard. You've got this package coming from someone you love, and it's just left on your step, maybe in the rain or whatever,
Right.
and it might not be there when you get home. So it's better to take that step and drive to the UPS or the post office or wherever you need to drive to get it, rather than it just being exposed that way.
And you know, you have to be creative or innovative in efforts to safeguard yourself your property. I mean, a lot of us know people that has a post office box. So if there's an understanding between those two people, then you could just simply use that post office box address. You're only using it to receive items typically during the Christmas season. So all you need is an address, and if you trust an individual, they can go pick the box up for you. You can go with them, but the service probably won't give it to you because the box is not registered to you. But you would put your name on the item, and you would just simply put that particular post office box.
Now, we don't want to profile. We don't want to say that there's a certain look that a criminal might have. But what has been the trend this year?
Well,
and we mentioned this a little bit earlier, but can we go into a little more detail?
I think the trend is not only this year. I think it's actually trending that way. Is that the criminals those that are committing crimes are committing them at younger ages. I was watching the news just this morning where they had what they call a mob or a flash mob theft down in the District of Columbia. They had like 30 young people that went into a convenience store down there, and really they just took what they want and just left. That's I'm sure that's troubling. It's troubling to law enforcement. It's troubling to people that see it. Many are trying to determine what the causation is for that. But the fact of the matter is that and I don't want to get into a judicial discussion necessarily, but oftentimes they know that the punishment for that is almost non-existent. And those are a lot of the laws or legislation or procedures that were put in place to sort of protect the youth from having to face punishment, penalties, jail, and so forth has I think come back to bite society, and so they know that there's no real consequences for their actions,
and that what you might call mob mentality. If you've got a group of kids, more than just one or two, they may feel emboldened to do something that they wouldn't do if they were alone.
I would say emboldened in some cases, and in some cases they feel pressured. I mean, if everybody from that group is going to go in and do it, then you feel pressured to do it too. There's stigmatism associated with people that don't participate. I mean, that's the reality that we live in.
And I don't know if you remember back in Baltimore when they had the situation there, the riots there. And one mother kind of became a hero because she went out and she got her son.
Right.
Would that son have done that alone by himself? Would he have been involved in that situation had he been by himself or with one other person? But because there was a group, he may have acted in a way that he wouldn't have acted before.
That's a good question, Stephanie. I believe, well, first of all, I congratulate the mother for looking on the television saying, I'm not tolerating that. And so she went down there and she made it known to her son that I didn't raise you this way, right? So maybe we need more parents that will get involved. I'm not saying to that degree. I'm not promoting her handling of it as the way all scenarios should be handled, but certainly she was involved and she was engaged and she was not afraid of her own child. But I feel like opportunity only presents sort of an avenue for the person that has some sort of an inclination to do it anyway. I don't espouse to, I mean, if there was an opportunity for just an honestly good person to commit a crime, they would not commit it. It doesn't matter if there is an individual with them or if it's a group or whether they're by themselves. And certainly that group has some influential factors. The environment does have an impact, does take a role in our behavior oftentimes. But no, I don't. I would say if it had not been one particular situation,
it would have been another.
It could have been another. So.
Well, what are some of your other tips to keeping people safe, not just for the holiday season, but period?
Well, I guess probably generalize it and saying that you are a part of your own survival team, right? Like the police department that exists, they're probably, I would say, they're overworked. They're understaffed. In fact, as far as every individual, it can't have a police to walk around with them. Every mall, every store won't have a police there. So you have to become part of your own survival team, and you have to take a perspective of a person that has the security role sometimes in their survival team. So don't just be that person that feels as though someone else is going to provide for their well-being. You have to engage in your own well-being. You have to take the necessary steps when you're out to look around, not to park in unlit areas, not to park in areas where you see people are congregating that you don't know, and that overall mindset of being aware of your situation and your environment, and actually using your environment to your advantage, and trying to make the best outcome of that situation if it becomes a situation which involves physical violence.
Orlando, let's wrap it up talking a little bit more about the home security. A lot of times this time of year you have more people knocking on your door. They might be carolers, or they might say that they're coming by for religious purposes. How should you be more mindful when you're opening your door during the holiday season?
Well, one of the practices that's always good is not to open the door. And you don't have to, you could just simply say, I'm busy at the moment. You don't have to say I'm not interested, because oftentimes I'm not interested will elicit further conversation at the door. You could just simply say, I'm busy, and let that be that. I would say that's the safest, because once the door is open, even if we were talking about a scenario, if we were to go back in this conversation and talk about a scenario in the parking lot, what happens if you were attacked in the parking lot? One of the things that you want to do as you're walking towards your car or towards the mall is to scan for escape areas. And you say, well, why would I do that? You would do that because if something happens, you don't want to have to find that escape area in the heat of the moment. So you already kind of want to know what my escape area is. And one of the things that you want to do is put anything that you can between you and any potential assailant. And that be a car, any sort of an item where if you can get between that, get that item between you or object between you and the suspect, that helps to increase the likelihood that through the course of your screaming and all, you may get help. So it's kind of like the old game you used to play when you were a kid running around the car. It's just, it's a fact of, I guess, physics maybe. If I'm at the front of the car and you're at the rear of the car, unless you jump over the car, we just gonna keep going around and around in a circle.
But if they're coming into your house?
If they're coming into your house, the best thing that you can do is not open the door, number one, right? Number two is if you've discovered that you open the door and you shouldn't have, this really doesn't seem right, first thing you want to try to do is attempt to close the door back. If you discover that that's not working because you've been overpowered or whatever, then you can safely assume at this point that things have gone bad for you.
Mm-hmm.
And they want to get you in a fortified, secluded location so that they can do whatever it is that they plan to do. So this may sound crazy, but as they're trying to force you into the house, you're going to be trying to actually get out of the house. You don't want to go
that doesn't sound crazy at all.
Okay, so
that makes sense.
That's the safest thing. So at the last thing that you want to happen is that you and them end up in that house when it's locked and there's no one else home.
In wrapping up our discussion, the main point you're making today for personal safety is to be vigilant, know what's going on around you.
Exactly. I mean, have a sense of situational awareness. Have a plan for yourself. Don't just you know, sort of coexist with everybody and think that everyone is as friendly and as nice as you are, because there's certain individuals out there who are not. So, you know, raise your level of awareness within the environment that you're in.
Very good, very good. And a Merry Christmas to you.
And likewise.
And
Have a
all this
safe-
information that you gave today, it's a good way to start off the new year.
Yeah.
Keeping your eyes open. Think about this not just for Christmas, but think about this year round. Where are you? Who's looking at you a little too long?
Yeah, right.
Just be careful and just know what's happening.
Well, it's a state of mind, and it's one that one can practice. It's thoughts that one can practice, and as you practice it, it becomes the human brain is amazing. So you create brain grooves where the brain recognizes sort of what you're doing, and then it becomes more second nature, and it will do it almost automatically at a certain point.
Very good, very good. Thank you so much for joining
welcome.
us. We have been
Thanks for
talking
having
to Mr. Orlando Treadwell. He's a security specialist. We've been talking about keeping safe this holiday season. I'm Stephanie Gaines-Bryant. You've been watching the Sisters for Fitness Wellness Show. Have a great day.